Welcome once again to another Warrior Wednesday podcast here on the Iowa Firearms Coalition. On November 8th, you showed up in big numbers, 65+% voting in favor of codifying the Second Amendment in the state constitution. We thought you needed to be rewarded for that, more than just freedom. On the 22nd of February, we have a special guest coming to the state capitol at 2 p.m. Kris Paronto, and I think you're an American hero that folks are going to want to come out and meet. So, Kris, welcome.
I don't know if it's a reward, John. I'd say some people question that as being a reward. Like, what? We got to listen to this guy again? What? This guy hasn't been enough around. But I do appreciate it. And Midwest is it. I'm in Kansas. I used to be in Omaha, so right. Des Moines, very familiar with Des Moines, and actually Camp Dodge up there when I was going through ROTC. We all our little training stuff and the Ranger Challenge stuff when I was going through ROTC was all up at Camp Dodge. So it's very, to me, it's home. It's just coming back home. And Des Moines is a beautiful city, and it's good to hear that passed because the Second Amendment is extremely important. Obviously, it is. It's important to stop tyranny. It's important just our livelihood, and our forefathers wrote that in the Constitution. And our forefathers, honestly, were smarter than any politicians I think that we have nowadays. They saw the benefit of that down the road. So having that does, and I know from working in countries that are tyrannical or have terrorists because of the vacuum of power, the only thing that stops them is a good guy with a gun. And particularly, my experience in Benghazi, that's completely accurate. So very important. So it's good to hear that it passed.
Yeah, in fact, I think the 65% of folks that voted for it, I don't think there was another politician, at least in my recent memory, that ever got that high of a vote. So when folks say, it just kind of shows you that at least in Iowa, it's still God, guns, and Second Amendment. So
and Iowa is important because Kansas is still extremely red. Even the governor that we have, who claims to be a Democrat, she kind of plays both sides. She's a politician, definitely, but Iowa, you always worry about Iowa. I do. I'll be honest. I do. As far as because you always maybe it's you tell me maybe it's just scuttlebutt, but you always feel like even when I was in Omaha in Nebraska, that blue was creeping in, and the Constitution was always being challenged. And Des Moines is always a power state, Iowa is always a power state in the election. So to see that the reaffirmation of the Second Amendment was solid and that voters came out, to me, that's a good sign. It's a good sign that still in the Midwest, in particular Iowa and all the surrounding states there, and I know it's Nebraska and Kansas especially, that the right to bear arms is still extremely important to people, and that's a good sign. That's a good thing. It's something to build on.
Yeah, a couple Decembers ago, speaking of good signs, our governor actually called and said, would you be willing to do concealed carry training for myself, our lieutenant governor, and my staff? And I said, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we definitely have a governor who's pro 2A right now, but the people are always creeping in on the sides, trying to speak wrong into their ears and influence them. So
I think that'll be till the end of time, brother. It's low hanging fruit, and whenever everything else fails, it's always anti-gun, or we're talking about racism. I mean, those are just things that will always be talked about and always be argued about. Is discrimination, racism, and also anti-gun bills, and guns are bad and all. And that's just, I hate to say it, that's just how it's always going to be. So having somebody to stand up and still continue to fight for those Second Amendment rights is extremely important, because we're going to need somebody like that till you and I are long gone. And that's just my opinion, but I do feel that way.
So let's talk a moment kind of about recreating yourself. You went from being a ranger, always a ranger, and then the contractor, and now kind of reforming to help the civilian population a little bit with their training. I see you've done a lot in the Midwest. I've seen you training out in Nebraska and Kansas, and with the Battle Line Tactical part of the organization. So just tell us a little bit about how you've moved from one field to the other, but yet still very similar mission.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, and they didn't need to know this. I was a trainer for Blackwater Security in between contracts when I was a contractor working for Blackwater Security. That's when Eric Prince ran Blackwater, and it was actually Blackwater, not Academy, not Constellas Group. It was Blackwater, and Blackwater Worldwide. And so in training, I was always training regardless. So it was something that wasn't really something I did new or transitioned to. It just was, I just continued on. It just was with my own company because, you know, myself and Boone at the time, Dave Boone Benton, my partner who was in Benghazi with me, we started Battle Line, and he since has gone his own way and has his own training company called Threat Management System, which he's an excellent instructor. I always in Florida, and I recommend people train with him. But it really wasn't anything new. It was just, okay, well, I'm not going to do this for the government anymore because the training I was doing was for the agency and also State Department contracts. Why can't I just do this on my own and you know, make my own schedule and train the local populace, which to me, I think it's more fun for me. It's more enjoyable. Yeah, we still get some egos out there every once in a while, but it's not the constant ego that you have coming through when you're training and teaching Rangers, SEALs, Marines, and so forth, because, you know, it's just the alpha maleness is there. It's always going to be there, and that's just how it is. You deal with it. But what I thought, and when I was doing the Battle Line stuff, and also the you know, with E3 Firearms now, which is another training avenue that I have as well. Get people that may not want to get in the Second Amendment community because they see the alpha maleness out there and it's a bit intimidating. And that is something I wanted to change and bring people that may not feel like they should be shooting guns because it's just a manly, you know, manly alpha male society, and bring them in and teach them that it's not. In fact, this is quite fun. It's just fun. This is just like going fishing. It's just like going out and going trail riding. It's just another activity that's not going to just benefit you and help protect you because you're going to be able to protect yourself, but it's fitness is part of it. Being outdoors is part of it. Being around people that really, I would say, like-minded, and I say that in a good way, but people that are like-minded, that enjoy the guns, enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the smell of gunpowder, which I do. That's not what I do. And what it does, though, too, and I saw with Battle Line and E3 Farms, is bringing those people in. It makes the Second Amendment, that community, stronger because it's not what the stereotypical left that has no idea what guns are about. It's not the stereotypical alpha males out there beating our chests, you know, wearing tattoo sleeves down. It's just everyday people. Some lady that works at the grocery store. Some I have 2 RNs that come in and like to train. You know, and it's also just gentleman in Chicago. He comes to all my courses. He's missing his left hand, and he has learned how to actually shoot quite well and do all the tactical movements, change magazines with no. I mean, that's remarkable. So you're seeing people that are inspirational as well that I don't think normally would come in the 2A community unless you had instructors like myself, and there's others out there that really, we run a very non-intimidating environment. And all it does is just makes the community stronger because it grows and it has more. This is the catchword because it's just a popular word now in society, but we have more diversity in the 2A community. And I love it. I think it's really enjoyable to me. It really is. It helps me.
That is important to point out because the Second Amendment is not political. I mean, I don't care what religion, what race, whatever, you come to my classes, you're going to get treated exactly the same. You're going to learn the same thing. And there's no reason that, you know, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on, that you have the right to protect yourself, and you should be well trained if you're going to, you know, take that up.
Amen. No, amen. You said it better than I could have said. I would have said that in like 3 minutes. You were more succinct, but that's just typical Tanto. That's for you right there. But I completely agree with you. And for an instructor too, bringing a new student in and new participant in, I like to call them participants, not necessarily students, and watching their eyes light up because they're no longer intimidated by this inanimate object at the end of the day. And like, oh my gosh, I can actually feel like I can protect myself. That's a good feeling. It really is. And to see the smiles and to see that they're actually having fun. It reminds me of when I used to teach my children how to ride the bike and the first time they took off on a bike with no training wheels. It's that same feeling. And I'm not downplaying it. I'm not trying to dumb it down. It's just that good feeling, that a sense of accomplishment. And also, I feel I can better handle myself because I have more confidence when I leave this room. And that's what I think shooting in the 2A community really does. It helps with building confidence. Not necessarily tactical knowledge, which if you do more, you will get better tactically, of course. Fundamentals will continue to improve. But up here, you have that mindset of, all right, I can take care of myself. And you make yourself, I know you teach this in your courses, I'm now a harder target. So when that bad guy's looking, there is a sense of, okay, I think they can take care of themselves. That person that doesn't know how to shoot, doesn't know how to defend themselves, there's the easy target. Let's go that way. And I believe people feel that way when they walk out of a class, and the more class they take, the more confidence they do build in themselves.
And we're making some progress in Iowa, actually getting some of our schools to think that way. And just had some training going on here in the last month. We've only had 2 so far up in Northwest Iowa, but they raise their hands and say, hey, we want training. We want to be able to arm, several people on the staff and teach them what they need to know, both firearms, trauma, medical, all that stuff. So you have to stay in the fight, and eventually you start breaking through and people start seeing the light.
And that's how it's done. That's how the other side continually does it for years. I think that's why they've got to the point where they are, where they can say, okay, guns are bad, and you take them away when it's not the gun, it's the person. That's bad. Right. You know that, I know that, we teach that. So coming the other direction, saying guns are not bad, the person is bad, but guns can be good in a good person's hands. You're seeing that you're seeing what's taking place with, you're teaching those 2 schools, which those people are finally seeing the benefit of it, that being able to protect yourself is important. Because, and I know you teach the same thing, not that anything against law enforcement, but they're not going to always be there. They're not going to get there right when you need them. And that's just the nature of the beast, unless you have a resource officer that is actually at the school, or a couple, which we do here in Kansas in my son's school. They're resource officers, they're sheriffs. I know them quite well. They've actually come to a couple of my courses. They're there, but we're in small town Kansas where that is important. That's not something we have to fight for. It's actually expected. So I'm glad to hear that, because you're probably more in most states having 2 schools. There's probably out there that don't have those 2 schools out there.
And ironically, in both of these schools, it's been the women that are on the school board are the ones that are standing up and saying, hey, we're going to make this happen. And surprisingly, maybe not so much in Iowa, but the community support, it's like, hey, I got kids in that school. I want them protected.
I want them. Yeah. It's great to hear. And my kids go to a private school too. My 2 little ones, my son goes to the public. My kids go to the private, and they're the private school that they have. That's what I do love about private schools and private Christian schools is they are armed, and I'm very happy. The doors are locked, and certain people that are trained, and a couple of their teachers have come through my courses as well. They're trained how to use firearms, but also you said something that was even more important. They're trained how to address trauma. The TCCC, that is even more important. How to use tourniquets, how to pack wounds, how to assess, and because that stopping that bleed initially, and we've all seen that have been downrange or not, or have been in a traumatic incident. And it studies on it, of course, as well, that the first few minutes are the most important in stopping the bleeding to if somebody's going to be saved or not, or life is saved or it's not saved. And so it's good to hear that you said the guns, but also you said, hey, you're also getting the medical training as part of that, because I think that's just as important, if not more important.
Yeah, we encourage people to go beyond just to stop the bleed and get into some of that scenario-based training into the TCCC world, and going out and seeing, it might be a moulage and the fake blood and all that, but that, that makes your stress level go up, and you still have to function under stress, as you well know.
Yeah, and it does get you used to it. I'll be honest, it does. And it's Benghazi, what happened with us there. A lot of people don't know this, but Ron was our 18 Delta. He was our medic. He was our trauma, basically our trauma guy.
He was a nurse, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was an RN, and then he was a certified 18 Delta, which is a combat medic at the highest levels. And we had just gone through with the staffers. We had just gone 2 days prior through a TCCC course before the attack. The Lord works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? I just how ironic, because they needed to address severe bleeds that night with Oz and Dave Ubin because of their massive amounts of trauma they had to their arms and legs. And I think that helped save their lives, because the staffers, and we didn't have a lot of stuff in Libya, so we used ketchup. It can work. It works. But at least got their mindset right, I believe. So when they saw it, not that it didn't still shock them, but not so much that if Colonel Cooper's color codes, if not search it, they didn't go in the black. They may have gone in the red, but it kept them from going in the black and just shutting down and not doing anything. And I said that's wrong, but it also, I believe God had a big hand in that too. I don't think that was a coincidence that we went through that training 2 days prior to the attack. And it's not something that we would do consistently on a base either. So it's not like we did it every week. It
Right.
just, hey, why don't we do this? We haven't done it in a while. And then the attack happened, and it did help. It did save lives.
When you look back on your career, prior to Benghazi, you got the book, The Ranger Way, which I actually listened to on podcast a couple of years ago on Audible.
You like my voice? I have a good Barry White low tone voice. I don't. I sound like David Beckham. I got this high pitched. Always sounds like I got helium.
But at least you read your own stuff, so that's good. So many authors don't read their own stuff. I was kind of surprised listening. I think when you think of Ranger Battalion, you think of this highly organized and well respected. Early on, you weren't well respected. I remember about the Space Invaders thing where you're like,
that's part of the process. And I don't know if they still do this now, but that was the hazing process. And I know it was harder. It's always harder before. And you'll talk to a guy in Vietnam, that Ranger class was harder than the Grenada class. And so what I'm saying is that it was harder before even I was there, but during that time frame, that was part of the hazing process. You're a private. You're not tabbed yet. I think people don't understand the Ranger Battalion. Having a Ranger tab doesn't make you a Ranger. The scroll and being at the unit with the 7th Ranger Regiment is making you a Ranger. And you're not a full Ranger until you have the scroll and the tab. And when you're a private, you have your scroll. So you've been through Ranger Indoctrination Program. Now it's called Ranger Assessment and Selection. It's an option 40 contract that you have to do it. And you do get punished. You get hazed. And when you get to battalion, they haze the living crap out of you. That Space Invaders, like you're talking about, put you up in your Ranger body armor, your RBA, put your sun, wind, and dust up goggles on because we didn't have cool Oakleys yet. We hadn't got to that level. They sell the old K-pots, not the cool light Mitch helmets or any of the new helmets. And they put you at the hallway and they throw beer bottles at you if you happen to be caught in the barracks in the weekend. That's why when it was weekend time and we had the weekend off, you would see, it was like a sinking ship. You would see untapped privates just squirting out of windows to get out of the barracks so they didn't get caught in some altercation. But feels, that was awful. That's hazing. It is necessary. It weeds out people that probably shouldn't be there, because if they're going to falter under that kind of little stress, they're going to falter when they're getting shot at. But also it built character. It did. I don't lie. And it did prepare me for things down the road. I don't think they do that much anymore. I wish they did. I think it's very beneficial, and it is just to get that mindset right, that mental toughness and that intestinal fortitude. But it also says, hey, do I really want to be here? And if you don't really want to be at Ranger Battalion, you shouldn't be there, because you're going to cost somebody's lives. And that was the importance of it. It also instilled that motivation to get that Ranger tab. So perform well, excel at everything, get your PT score above 300, get to Ranger school so you don't have to put up with all the hazing anymore. And now you're a tab spec 4, and now you're on your way to getting into leadership position. So there's tremendous benefit from it. And I wouldn't, like I said, I don't think they do it much anymore, because it's a kinder, gentler, more woke army. If they do, good on you. Don't tell nobody. Keep it secret. You don't need to let nobody know. But for me, those hazings that went on constantly, they were important, and I do believe they helped save my life. Even how many years later on 9/11/2012.
Right. What would you tell to the average citizen out there who just feels beat down, maybe from the political situation in the country? They watch what's happening. Maybe they have a pistol brace on their gun that they're going to have to do something with shortly. And they just feel like, why are we even staying in this fight? Because our government is basically, every time we turn around, doing something to take our freedom away.
Well, I can tell you what I do. I turn it off. I don't watch the news anymore. You rarely see me. In fact, I don't do the news anymore. I turn them down. I don't get asked anymore because I've always turned them down the last 2 years. The news, it does. I know a lot of people, in particular, I'm sure they watch Fox and Newsmax, and they do have not good. I own some of them people personally, and they're good people. But the news in itself in today's society, it's just such a sensationalized, and they do want to instill that fear. It does. It makes them money. It does. That's just the nature of it. Turn it off and just see what's going on around you, and then keep living your life by the Constitution, by the Bible. I read a prayer passage every day. And sometimes I pick it up and it's just what I needed to hear that day. God's still out there. And just be a good person to your neighbors. Be that small town Americana that even when you're in a city that's still there. But it's hard to do when you're constantly watching the news. It really is. And to say that we don't have problems would be a lie. That'd be a fallacy. We have problems, and every country has problems. We always have problems. We will, because of the divisiveness that's out there. But don't let the media continue to divide you even more. Get out of it. Stay out of it. Be positive. You don't need to judge. The only person that's going to judge is God. That's it. And when I let that go, I let a lot of anger go, because I was angry. You guys probably saw it on the news quite often, where I was angry at certain people. When I finally was able to let that anger go is when I was like, wait a second, who's the only person that's going to judge? It's going to be God. Before I make her, who am I to judge anybody? Because I have my own mistakes that I make out there. I have my own sins. Let it go. Let God deal with it. God will handle it when it's necessary. I don't need to see that person hang like medieval times. I don't need to see that person in the stock. I don't need to see that person, that public hanging. I don't need to see that. I think we want to see that more because it's just society in itself, right? Reality TV and the sensationalism of train wrecks, that we got to see a train wreck. And that does nothing to help us in our everyday lives. It just makes us, honestly, it makes us more angry. And it is detrimental to our psyche. And when I finally let all that go and said, let go, I hear that, let go and let God. That's it. When I finally did that is when, honestly, my life got a lot better. And I was happier again. I would say I was Tanto again, because when I was deploying, I didn't care anything about politics. Never pay attention to I'm deploying, I'm with my guys, I'm going down range, I'm doing what I love. You're fighting with your brothers, like sometimes fighting when it's just one of those things, but you're fighting alongside your brother. God's huge in your life when you're down range. You really find out that there is a God. I don't have to believe there's God. I know there's God. And you don't pay attention to politics. And I kind of forgot that when the movie came out. I was going on TV all the time. And when I finally realized, wait a second, that's not who I was when I was deploying and I was happy. What am I doing wrong here? Well, get God back in your life, get the media out of it, get family back in your life, which was important to me as well. And my life got back to normal, which was good. I still have my bad days. We all do. Sure. But it wasn't angry. It was, man, okay, I get this. I'm back to being myself, which is just somebody that wants to be happy all the time and know that God's in control, and whatever he decides, that's what's going to happen. And I don't need to be in control, because essentially we're really not in control. God's in control. When we realize that, that's when things can get back to normal. But turning off I know that's going to be hard for some people out there, but it really did help me out when I finally stopped going on the news and stopped watching the news. And it was extremely beneficial to my psyche. So I don't know, that's my advice. May not work for everybody, but that's what I did. And it really did help me out. And it made me a better person. Again, that type of person I liked to be when I was deploying, who didn't care about the news at all either when I was deploying and in the Army. I didn't care.
Yeah. Well, I worked in the media for 30 years, and I agree. After I left the media, I finally actually had my own voice. And the less I watch of it, the better I definitely feel, because you just go out and speak the truth now, and you don't have to worry about anything else.
And and you can see what's going on around you. Just see what's going on around you. There's probably bad things. You're going to see crime some places, and some places you're going to see things that are awful, but you're going to see great things as well. You're going to see people helping each other more so than you think, if you pay attention to it. Even when I was out in California speaking, before Christmas time, California stuff's way too expensive, too many dang people. But for the most part, the people there that I dealt with, we didn't talk about media, just going to a hotel or going to a restaurant, or everyday people that are working, they were all very, very nice. Were they Democrat or Republican? I don't know. I didn't care.
Right.
They were nice to me. They were respectful. I was respectful back. And I think there's a lot more of that out there, but we prejudge because, they must be Republican. They must be Democrat. They must be liberal. They must be conservative. Who cares, man? Right. Are you respectful to me when you and I are talking? Then it doesn't matter, right? Just let's be respectful to each other. And that was I see that quite a bit when I travel. I always get a spidey senses start to tingle when people ask me what denomination. Now it's like almost a religion. What party do I follow? Then I'm like, okay, what are you after here? And for all of you that don't know, I am an independent. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in God, and I believe in family. If that makes me conservative in your eyes, well, that's on you. That's what I believe in. But as far as me having a political party, I am honestly, if you registered, I'm a registered independent. It sucks because I can't vote in primaries then, but I still feel that's where I need. That's where I feel like I need to be, right in the middle of the road. We can make decisions, not what the media tells us, but how we feel, how I feel, and it may be different than how you feel. But isn't that why this country's great? We have the freedom to feel how we want to feel.
Have you ever run into Colonel Grossman at all? Dave Grossman in any of your travels?
You know what? We may have early on. We had correspondence, so but I can't. I swear we did early on when I first left Ranger Battalion. But I'm familiar with his books and so forth.
No, he's a pal of mine. I hear from him pretty regular. But one of the things he taught me, I went through a traumatic deal many years ago, but just on the role of resilience and how resilience, especially in our military, it is more effective for people that have a foundation in faith, how they're able to get through, a traumatic incident better than maybe someone who did not have that faith relationship when they went through something like you did in Benghazi. Would you find that true?
I do find that definitely true because, well, here's an example. And I think this might explain it even better than me trying to ramble on about it. I had a prayer book, and I still have it, that a Ranger buddy of mine gave me before I went on my first trip into Iraq. It was in 2004 was the first time I went into Iraq. First time I deployed. It was first trip. And he's like, here's a prayer Bible. I'm not Catholic, but it was like Catholic prayer Bible. And I didn't care. Let me read it. It's prayer Bible. Right. It's fine. And there was a prayer before battle that I read, and it scared me because I read it every day I was overseas. And at the end of the prayer, it said, if I die on this battlefield today, may I die at peace with you. And I didn't like reading it because, I just, and this is when I just had a 1-year-old boy. He's 17 now, but he had just been born. He was a new father. I'd seen him for a couple of weeks, and I was gone again. So I hadn't really, so I'm like, man, God, I'm talking to myself. I'm thinking to myself, why do I want to pray to God kill me? Mm-hmm. When I really haven't been a father yet, I haven't been home much, I'm gone. And when I finally did go home 7 months later, I talked to my pastor about it because it did bother me. He goes, Kris, that's not what it means. It just means accept where you're at that point in time. That's what that prayer means. If for some reason that you die, well, that's your path. That's what God wants for you. But he's not saying he wants to kill you. He's just saying, be where you're at because that's where I need you at that point in time. And that's made a huge difference the rest of my 10 years of deploying because whatever happened, God, that's where you want me. I got you. I'm here. And so I could accept what was going on around me because that's what God wanted me to be, and that's what he wanted me to do. And that also would help benefit me. I was able to enjoy everything that went on around me. So when I saw an explosion, instead of ducking I could actually look at that VBIED and feel the shockwave of it. If luckily for me, I'm far enough away to catch any shrapnel. But watch the plume of the smoke go up. Or even that night in Benghazi, leading all the fires, just how beautiful an entire compound on fire is, and being able to sit there and look at it and go, wow, who gets to see this? Mm-hmm. If I didn't have that faith in God that that's where he wanted me, I wouldn't be able to do that because I'd be scared for I honestly believe I'd be scared for my life. Yeah. But I wasn't. Not that I wanted to die. It was, okay, God, you got me here. World opens up. It's like a racehorse taking those blinders off. Right. And this is awesome. I could see everything. And also it made me a better tactician and a better fighter because those blinders were on. Mm-hmm. I could see everything. And the adrenaline didn't take me over. I felt the adrenaline, but I was able to utilize it. Right. The old martial arts, martial arts with the ki and the chi. It's the same thing. It's just their definition of adrenaline. But instead of letting that adrenaline take you over and go to that cone of where I can't see anything, now I'm just letting that adrenaline flow through me. And wow, enjoy the moment. Literally enjoy the moment. This is freaking awesome. And it honestly, I felt like I probably was safer because of that, because I could see him more, I could take in more, I could experience more, hear more sounds, was more in tune to what was going on around me. But all that started with that prayer in 2004 about God, and then me talking to my pastor and saying, hey, what does this mean? God wants you here? Yes, sir. Roger that, sir. I'm here. And all right, let's and then so that even that night I almost went to the old alpha male list, but that's really what it was feeling like. It was even that night, it was okay, let's get it on. And that was essentially it. And we all felt that way though. And I believe that's why that team in particular in Benghazi, Rowan, myself, Boone, Oz, Tig, and then later when Bub came over from Tripoli, who saved lives too, I believe we all felt that way and all of us had been deploying for 10 years at that point too, which I don't believe was a coincidence either. We had senior guys there. Do you think God did that as a coincidence? No, I don't think so. I think that team and those guys with that amount of experience and those beliefs that we all had in a higher power. I believe in God. I'm not telling you have to, but I do. We all had that. I don't think that was a coincidence that team was there. And we all didn't get along either, but we knew how to put our differences aside so we could work together. That's not a coincidence. That's God working and God working miracles, in my opinion.
100%. Tell me about your foundation, 14th Hour. What have you been able to do with that?
It's been going on for 3 or 4 years now. We have changed it a bit. We used to just provide money to veterans that needed to pay bills. It was going well for a while. And then, of course, there have been a couple bad apples that came through that had been playing because I don't think all you veterans out there realize all those foundations, we all know each other. So we all talk to each other. And we found a few that were trying to jump from foundation to foundation just to get money to continue to pay their bills. We don't have the size to do it's just myself and my wife. And so it was hard for us to check all those applications coming in. So we changed it to just we're now somewhat like Glendora Memorial Foundation, like Bub's Foundation, where we provide scholarships to veterans that want to continue their education. And I have my master's degree. I've never used it for anything, but I have it. But I do believe it was during a time in my life, if you read The Ranger Way, where going to school really saved my life because that was the first time I was booted out of the military and I couldn't figure out what I need to do with my life. So I went back to grad school. I went to school and it helped me get my life back together. The importance of education and continuing your education. So now that's what we do. And we provide help with providing grants. If you got grants or scholarships, my wife knows the terminology better. She's a smart one, of course, in this relationship. But to help people go to school. And I do think as a veteran, even if you don't use that degree that you're going to school for, just going to school will help you learn research. It does help you better yourself and it keeps you goal oriented if you're going after something like a degree to finish up. So when you get it, it's an accomplishment and whether you use it or not, it does look good on a resume. I know with most schools now being all wokeness and degrees don't mean as much anymore. It still does having a bachelor's or associates or even, and it doesn't have to be that type of school. It can be a trade school, electrician, plumber, HVAC techs. Man, they make more than I was when I was a private. When I was first in, that is such important. And also it gives you a goal to shoot for. And then, once your accomplishment, you accomplish it. Well, of course, like anything, we feel good about ourselves and it can help you find other jobs that outside of the military or contracting, paramilitary work, contracting work as well.
Yeah, I have the opportunity, I should almost say a blessing, as a helicopter pilot. I'm an examiner for the FAA, and we have a lot of folks that are prior military that are now trying to move from flying Blackhawks and into the airline program or something like that. So I get to fly with these guys and do their testing, and before they move up the chain. And I like flying with the guys that did the kind of work that you do because I can roll the engine off at 300 feet, near disaster, and they're just smooth as could be. Put the collective down a little. I say, what did you do in the military? Oh, I defused bombs, or I was special ops or whatever. It's like, okay, I probably will not be able to fluster you today.
It's that skill set that you just learn, and it goes back to the Space Invaders games. That's where that skill set comes from. Learning how to deal with pressure, and learning how to deal with stress.
Stress inoculation.
It does. It's stress inoculation, and it starts. That's why I put that Space Invaders story in the Ranger Way. Maybe I didn't explain it as well as I probably should have, but it's still, that is the beginning of the stress. That is where the stress that you build there is where you get the stress of now I'm flying at whatever 1,000 feet you are and you shut the engines off. Right. You don't just get it like that. It's got to start. It's like building blocks. Anything else, you got to start here to get to here. well, that's where it all started, was right there. And you're right, those pilots are awesome, especially the task force pilots, the Night Stalker guys that come and fly in the civilian world after, and they do quite well. I have a few of those buddies that fly the power lines to check the power lines in Georgia, and I can't think of a cooler job than that. I know they're like, it's not as exciting to them, but like, man, you're out here in the woods, just flying a helicopter, checking the power lines.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. How do you? And so, if you're going to be in aviation, man, I envy those guys. I do. If that would have been another occupation, I would have went to. I did love the infantry and Rangers, but there's something that, man, I should have went and flew helicopters because I always loved riding in them. I love riding with you guys. That was always fun.
Well, we got you coming to Des Moines on the 22nd. Want to invite everybody out there. Just go to the website, iowafc.org, go to our events page, and you have all the details. I can't say enough. Appreciate the time that you spent with us today. Didn't want to share too much of the story, let you give your 20, 30-minute speech in Des Moines here next month. But just blessings to you. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your faith with us, your story, and we'll be connecting here in about a month or so.
All right, John. Thank you, sir. And God bless y'all. Look forward to seeing all you out there. And I'll hang out after we're done and talk to whoever and shake hands or is it shake babies, kiss hands, or can we not say that? Or is that too offensive?
I don't know. In this COVID era, who knows? All right,
I don't
brother.
think it's going to offend people, but thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you soon.